Welcome or welcome back to Lift You Up Inspiring Health Stories. I'm your host, Tamika Bickham. I am the founder and chief storyteller of TB Media Group, but for the purpose of this podcast, I am your health and happiness matchmaker. Now, before I introduce you to today's guest, you know what I'm going to ask you to do. Hit subscribe on YouTube. Connect with me on LinkedIn. I want to stay connected with you. Now, today you're going to meet Cristie Besu. She is the founder and president of Eat Me Guilt Free, which is a better for you food that you can find in hundreds of stores right now. She's in Vitamin Shop and GNC, to name a few. But I met her 7 years ago when she was selling these brownies on Instagram. She is a nutritional coach. Prior to that, was a nurse. She made that leap of faith into entrepreneurship and to pursue her passion when it comes to health and healthier eating. We're diving into that and how she's also supporting other women entrepreneurs in her business. Our physical, mental, and emotional health is not just a want. It is a need for happy lives and prosperous businesses. Lift You Up is the podcast where we share inspiring health stories from business owners who are fulfilling their purpose to live their healthiest lives and helping you do the same. From former TV reporter to marketing entrepreneur and content creator, I care about sharing stories that matter and stories that connect us. I'm your host, Tamika Bickham, your health and wellness matchmaker. Well, I am so excited. It's like chatting with an old friend. Welcome, Cristie Besu, the founder and president of Eat Me Guilt Free, to the show. How are you?
Thank you. I'm great, Tamika. Thank you so much for inviting me. I know.
It's so funny because this week I was watching your Instagram stories and you were talking about how you were a nurse and it's National Entrepreneurs Day and kind of like looking back at when you started your business. And as I heard that, it reminded me that I'm like, holy shit, we actually met each other. I mean, I want to say it was like 2013. And I didn't realize, like, as I started to think about it, I was like, wow, you were a nurse at the time that we met. Now that I'm like, putting two and two together. And it's
I was just leaving.
Yeah, it was really amazing now to see where you are now with your business and how far everything has come. So I know I'm kind of, for those listening, they're like, what are you talking about, Tamika? So take us through like your path and your journey to building the incredible business that you have now.
Yeah. So we met in 2013. That was around the time that I was leaving the hospital. I was a nurse in the emergency room for like almost 9 years. My, I guess, hobby was like competing and figure competing. I had been doing that since like, I guess, 2010. I stopped in 2017. So since I
Were you really doing it 7 years?
Yeah, like on and off.
Yeah.
So,
and that's how we met, because I was doing my first ever bodybuilding competition. It's been a long time since then.
No, I totally am not in that. I have friends that do it, but I'm not in that realm.
But like once you're in that realm, like kind of everybody knows everybody. Like you have your competition coaches, and that's when I met Alex and Maggie Campernero and got connected with you. And it's crazy to think that that was like 7 years ago now.
Crazy, yeah. So that year, I had already kind of toyed around with the brownie because I was already like seeing clients as a nutrition coach. So I had gotten like my certification for sports nutrition on the side, which I was doing like in the hospital for my friends, the doctors and nurses. And then I just kind of left the hospital. I kind of took that leap. And I was basically writing diets full time. And then I would hear the same things over and over and over. Like people would talk about how they wanted to eat cleaner. They were reading the labels, they wanted to know what to eat. And they felt incredibly guilty every time they ate things like brownies, candy, bread, things like that. So at the time, chocolate was what most people were craving. So I made a brownie. And it was kind of like a mug cake, I guess what a competitor would. And I just made a version. I was wrapping them in saran wrap. And I started, and then that's where Eat Me Guilt Free, the brownie, it was called Eat Me Brownies at first, was born. And I didn't incorporate it till like December of 2014. And I was just making them at home. I lived in an apartment in Brickell at the time with my kids because I'm a single mother of three. But when I started sharing my journey on Instagram, because that was the same time that kind of was growing.
Right, right.
Yeah. Um, I don't know. My following started to grow for Eat Me Go Free because that was
Yeah.
kind of like my personal account. And then I opened up an e-commerce store. And my first year selling like 2 different types of brownies, wrapping them in saran wrap, and a 4-week shelf life, I sold like, I don't know, like $700,000 or $800,000 in brownies. Bananas. I'm like carrying bags of of like mail things down the chute. I had no idea exactly what I was doing, but
So okay, wait, hold on. I'm going to go back a little bit. So at this time, you are still a nurse and you work with clients on the side as a nutrition coach. Is
I
that
had
right?
been doing that since around 2010 on the side.
Okay.
Like I worked 3 or 4 days at the hospital. Around 2013, around the time I met you, I 2013, 14, I left the hospital and I started seeing clients for nutrition full time, from 7 o'clock in the morning to 10 o'clock at night. And, it was really rewarding. And I felt like I was making an impact, but it was kind of like a one-on-one thing. So when
Right.
I started making, time passed, I made the brownies for those clients. And then when I shared it on Instagram, I don't know, it was cool that I was able to go beyond that one-on-one and
Right,
make an
right.
impact,
Because you had the
you know.
intention of like, hey, we know how it is. We all have those cravings, especially
Yeah, I
if
was
you're bodybuilding.
starving. Yeah, I was starving. And I wanted brownies for sure. So I understood like everyone's struggle. Yeah.
Right. So everyone's like, I want something I can kind of have a guilt free little
Yeah.
treat while, still trying to stay healthy, on track, on point, with my diet and exercise.
Yeah,
So,
like I was teaching that concept of like, oh, this is a carb, this is a fat, this is what they do. And then when people would be like, well, then I can't eat what I want at this time. I'm like, you can, but it's not the best fit. So I started to try to create things that were like a brownie that they wanted to eat, like at all hours. I could kind of change the nutrition, right?
now
Replacing some ingredients.
did it take you a while to come up with the ingredients? Was it like a lot of trial and error?
It was, I think, my original formula is actually really different than what it is now.
Oh,
It
really?
kind of morphed over, I would say, around year 2 or 3, because we're going to be 6 years old in December. As far as being incorporated and selling online and this type of thing, it's a different. Like we use wheat protein isolate now versus whey.
Okay.
So the brownies have eggs. That's the only, but it's like a plant-based protein that gives it like a nice texture. Because that's what I think at the time, the only thing on the market that was like high protein, low carb was a protein shake and a protein bar.
Mm-hmm.
So I would have like, a shake or a bar that tastes like a brownie, but it didn't have the texture. So I think that's where, I think the brand kind of was a pioneer in making things that were actually like we just released bread. It is bread. You know what I mean? It's not like something that maybe might taste like bread. It's definitely bread. And the brownie has the texture of a brownie. But I think the added protein helps a lot to like satiate your hunger, you know.
Right.
Um, the we add fiber and it's lower in carbs, and a lot of different lifestyles are looking for that.
Yeah.
So, it's not so much of a niche one type of, not keto or specifically vegan, and although some of our products are vegan, but it just kind of happens to be, you know.
Right, right. So you started making them in 2013. How
Hmm.
long between, because you mentioned all of a sudden you sold 700, eight hundred
That
thousand
wasn't
dollars in brownies
the first
in
year.
year one. This is
One.
before, is that what? I mean, how did this, talk me
Bananas.
through this? I mean, are
Bananas.
you like baking them out of your home? Like set the scene in the picture of like what's going
Yeah,
on.
so yeah. I'm baking them out of my home. I'm wrapping them in saran wrap. I printed stickers at FedEx. Like that's where I was at. Like it was crazy. My children were helping me. My friends were helping me. It was nuts. So and then I ended up getting a
Were you
commercial
still
kitchen.
working with your clients?
I was. No, I was, yeah.
You were a
Sorry.
maniac.
Yeah, it was definitely not a sane decision. So I would, I would just like after I was done, I'd, bake. And then that's where I ended up at a commercial kitchen and then going to a baker, like a co-packer by the end of the year. I just at 8 or 9 months, I was like, okay, I can't bake these brownies anymore. I had 65,000 trays in my house because back then they were like in a mold, like that you had to like bang the mold. I didn't have these machines to cut brownies the way you're supposed to, and it was like almost surreal. And I think that first year, like those sales gave me like validation and confidence that helped me ride out like the next couple years, because after year two, when I went to school for biology before nursing. Like I really didn't even know what a profit loss was, like anything that had to do with accounting or business. That was not my forte. I moved into a warehouse and it was still growing. I had about 2 employees helping me at the time, on and off, this type of thing. And then I just took on like just all sorts of crazy decisions that, you kind of like, that's how you learn.
As you're learning, yeah.
And that year, I remember I didn't know what like anxiety and panic attacks felt like. I'm like laying on the floor. I'm like, what is this feeling? And yeah, I think I spoke about this recently with someone. My dad was even like, "Hey, are you gonna go back to the hospital? Like this just doesn't seem like a good idea. It sounds great and it's
And
fun, but."
and why did he say that? Just because things
It
took
was
a
just,
turn?
I was still selling just as many and growing, but I couldn't keep up. I didn't have an investor. I didn't understand like what percentage, like when someone loaned me money, what was okay, what was not okay. And yeah, so my dad was like, you have a profession. And I was like, no, I'm going to kind of pivot, kind of like what we've all done now with COVID and changed
Right.
our lives. I was like, okay, well, no, at that moment, I had only been selling direct to consumer via Instagram. It was like the algorithm had changed. So your
Mm.
growth was different. I couldn't reach new customers the same way because people weren't, seeing everything. And I went out there, and the same way that I learned how to make a brownie and calculate the macros and this type of other, I learned how to sell because I had to. That's like
Right.
survival.
Right.
Yeah, I went out there to my first distributor, and thank thank goodness, you know what I mean? Because it was like right at the last draw, December of 2018, right before 2019, that we started distributing, because that last year was pretty bad. And it again just took off.
You know what's so interesting, and I say this about myself, but I think you fall in this category too, as far as like an accidental entrepreneur in a sense, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
I think that happens to so many of us. There's definitely that group of people that it's like they know they have it in them from the beginning, but I think a lot of times life tends to show
Mm-hmm.
you the direction you should be in. I got laid off 2 years ago, and I had been working with clients on the side, but then I was like, okay, well, maybe I should continue doing this. That was never the plan.
Yeah.
And it sounds like, your clients had a need, and you were an entrepreneur, obviously, at that time, but you didn't envision this type of
At
business, I'm
all.
sure.
At all, until time passed, and then I started to, like I said, I validated and gained confidence.
So when things got tough, what was it that made you want to stay the course and say, you know what, no, I'm gonna do this?
What happened the first year, and what I could see how people reacted to that type of solution, not just the brownie, but the concept. I saw, I guess, that the vision, the end result, even though it like no one else did. Yeah. And thank goodness that first year, you know, I guess how let me kind of really envision it, so I had something to hold on to for during the
Right.
time.
And it also sounds like you really believed in your product and how much people it fulfilled a need.
I like, I don't know, having a goal and getting there. But I think also I have, out of my 3 children, I have 2 girls, And as they got older, when I heard them like talk about me, they were like, "Oh, my mom does this and this, that, and the other." And I was like, "Okay, I have to live up to what, what they see." I didn't want to fail.
Right. I mean,
You know,
you're and are a role model to them, and you show them what is possible.
I'll have a lot of like female entrepreneurs reach out and ask for help, and I for me that's like a big part of now, like that I want to finish. Like I want to do it so that I can help other people or other women, I
Right.
should say, other women, honestly, because it is
Yeah.
difficult. I'm sure it's difficult for men as well, on being, not knowing and not having a steady, stable life and income is always difficult. But I think for women, particularly, especially if you have children, it's a little more difficult. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we have our own challenges. They don't always want to let us in.
Right. Yeah. Like I noticed that that's
We
a
have
thing.
to break down the door.
Yeah. Like people talk. Yeah. Yeah. I noticed that when I would need advice, or even when I would go to a co-packer or to a baker, the way that they would speak to me was like very different than they would speak to each other.
No, I can totally relate. I definitely get that because at the end of the day, I mean, there will people like I once had someone tell me like don't pull your pants down and bend over.
Yes.
Like,
Yeah.
like I had somebody tell, because you do, especially in the
Right.
beginning, get taken advantage of. Like people don't open those doors for you. They don't take you seriously, and it's until you really start like, going to bat for yourself that more of those opportunities open up. And then, it's a shame that it becomes this stigma for like a strong woman to be perceived in a negative way when if it's a
It
man,
wouldn't. It's not the case. Yeah, for sure.
it's a double standard. So that's why I love like most of my team is all women, which I love to support other women as much as I can. So and I think that's like the beauty in it when you have opportunities to like open that door for other people. So you mentioned, wanting to support other women. I know we were talking earlier offline about some of your new initiatives coming up along those lines. So tell me kind of what you have in the works and what you're planning.
Yeah. So for next year, we took like part of our budget, and we are going to basically have a women entrepreneur grant for female entrepreneurs. I'm so excited. We're calling it Glow Up Girl, like the glow up. And we're going to launch it on Valentine's Day because it's the same thing, like that whole
Aw, I love
theme. Yeah, I
it.
think it's going to be, I think the process is going to be fun because we're going to get to hear a lot of other female entrepreneur stories. I think we'll be able to help a lot of people, not only with the winner that gets the $10,000, but just maybe even throughout the journey, hearing people's stuff, we probably can just kind of give them, some sort of advice or resources.
I mean, I feel like as an entrepreneur, listen, there's always somebody who's done the thing before you,
Mm-hmm.
and I feel like I'm
Yeah.
always looking for that too. Like, if you can tell me what it is, so I can cut my time in half to
And
get
how
there.
it'd be great. Yeah, no, for sure. Yeah,
And it
even
sounds like you
people,
could
food
make a
products.
community too out of maybe the people that apply for this opportunity, and maybe they can lean on and help each other.
Yeah, you know what? That's actually a really good idea. We have that within Eat Me Guilt Free, the brand. We have like a VIP community. Everybody's like a subscriber and a loyal customer. They have like a Facebook group. But yeah, that's actually, thanks, Tamika. That's a great idea.
No
Because
problem.
I'm always kind of wanted to, but I'm still so far away from having a lot of extra time,
Right.
because we're still growing, and then we're a really small team. So I'm limited on the amount of time that I can kind of meet with someone one-on-one,
Right.
and I hardly have enough time to do what I have to do, and my children and my two dogs and a cat. Yeah.
Yeah. So tell me where things are with your business right now.
Yeah. So when I mentioned earlier that we started distributing that first year in 2019, we had one sports distributor, and it was received pretty well. Like became one of their best selling products, in the stores that they would place it. That's what distributors do. And so we got picked up nationally in Vitamin Shop in February, right before the shit hit the fan, basically.
Wow.
So scary. So scary.
Exciting, but then it's like, oh, like high low, right? In a
Yeah.
sense.
Then so yeah, I was so excited, and we had a lot of meetings with other stores and like we big grocery chains, and that slowed down. But when we got into Vitamin Shop in their like 800 or 900 stores, in the first week, we became their number one grab and go, which from what I understand is difficult to do if you're not a beverage. And I think our
Congratulations.
yeah, thanks. But I think a lot of it had to do with like building a community in the brand. And because we didn't use traditional marketing methods, we kind of like uh we would give away like a 1 year subscription to like I think it was like 10 people. But I we put basically tickets in it, and we put it out there like go get it, and everybody went out and got it. So our community really supported us.
Ah, like in the brownies.
Yeah, it really supported us, and we sold through. And then I guess the stores were excited about it, so their salespeople, I guess, more than likely would say, "Hey, try this," because it sold out really well. So that we've been in there for almost a year now, or we're gonna end the year, and we ended it super strong. And next year we're doing an exclusive flavor with them. They're picking up the bread and the tortillas now in December, and yeah, and we just got picked up by a really big distributor. There's only two really really large distributors that go to all grocers, and it's almost honestly surreal. Like it's bananas. Like we're at this point where now next year will be another big, another big spurt, and it has its own, I guess, challenges. And with hiring, which is kind of like what you were just talking about, hiring women. I try to hire a lot of young female entrepreneurs, and then a mix. Now I'm starting to try to bring on people who have some sort of experience because I don't know what I'm doing. So
Right.
we need
Right.
a mix of people. Some
I
that know
always
what
say
they're
I
doing.
want to hire people smarter and better than me at the things. Like, please. Like, when
Yeah.
I talk to people, my team is way smarter and way more talented than me. You are in great hands. Like, I always want that. Okay, so what stores are you in right now?
So right now we are in all the vitamin shops nationwide. We are in GNCs, I think, next week. We are in about 3,000 independent retailers, like grocers. We just got picked up by, there's two really large distributors that distribute to all the grocery stores in October. So we've had a lot of meetings that the answer is yes, but you have the meeting now, and then you actually are in the store 10 months later. So starting May of next year, I think people will really start to see it everywhere. Like I'll get texts from someone I haven't seen in 3 or 4 years. They're like, "Oh my god, I'm in whatever in Arizona. I saw it in a gas station." I'm like, so cool, because I a lot of times I won't know where it is. Um, but so that's I think next year, 2021, is when we'll be in a lot of I guess they call them large chain retailers. We'll start to see that, which is kind of cool.
Oh my
Yeah, it's
gosh.
very exciting.
So, you went from, I'm going to kind of bring it all, I feel like, full circle because this show is about health, wellness, happiness. I feel like there's happiness brands too, right?
Yeah.
You started as a nurse, you've been in the health field, working with clients on nutrition, and now you have this, I guess, it's a health food.
Yeah.
Um,
A better for you. Yeah, better for you
Better for
brand.
you
Yeah.
brand. So, how do you feel about where you personally are within the health space right now? Do you feel like, I don't know, I guess, what are
So
your feelings about like where your career and path has evolved to where it is now?
yeah, so I mean, I'm excited that I guess the brand just timing. Sometimes it's about timing.
Yeah.
It is most of the country and most of the world. I would say most of the Americans, though, it's really tough. We crave Americans crave a lot of foods because we're used to eating a lot of our snacking was junk. Back in the I guess even the 90s, right? So I think having better for you versions with cleaner ingredients and, not like artificial sweeteners and things like that, but just that the macros are a little better. It's a really cool place to be because it's a stepping stone. It's giving people the opportunity to start to make better choices, and they can actually do it. So I'm kind of happy to be part of that. And then me personally, I feel that, I don't know, this year COVID happened and I had to spend a lot of time at home and work from here. I picked up yoga, like it's a huge part of my life. So I started to realize like how important. I never thought about like, I don't know, like becoming more patient and my mental state, because that's a big part of your being healthy.
Your business, especially, because it can become
Yeah,
all consuming, right?
right. And finding a balance and like stopping, and I mean, even though a lot of entrepreneurs that I guess are in the stage that I'm in will be like, oh, I'm not going to take a day off, or I'm not going to, I do, I try
Yeah.
to, and I won't start, I'll go outside and, I start my day 2 or 3 hours of yoga, things I don't talk to anyone, so that I can withstand everything else. Because I think when you push yourself, I still push myself, but that, that balance is something that I think that this year I finally have learned. Even relationships with my children, we've been locked in this house all year, you know.
Yeah,
So even the learning how to do that is part of being healthy, I think.
absolutely. So I always like to ask a health tip from your perspective. Is there a health tip that the audience can implement in their lives, something that you recommend that is important to you?
Yeah, so I mean, I find that because we were talking about, I guess, our vegan friends that we have in common, and I think that something that a lot of people don't do unless they're vegan is not like include vegetables in like every meal. I feel like it should be the bulk of our food. It's alive, and a lot of people feel that that's something you only do if you're completely plant-based. And I think that it's leaps and bounds what it does for your health when
Yes.
your skin, how you feel, just that change alone, making sure that you include them at every meal is huge, you know.
That
I, so
that's a good
that's
one.
what I would say. That's what I would say. I know it's eat your vegetables. It sounds really, really cliche, but I mean all the time, not once a day. People are like, I eat
Right.
vegetables at dinner. I'm like, yeah, no, no, no. Yeah, I mean like all day.
All
And
day, every single meal.
right, I
Have your
think
eat me guilt free brownie with a side of broccoli.
right, yeah, or like yeah, like even like a bread. I'm making these loaves of bread, like having like a huge like raw salad, and then like I
Mm.
can make croutons out of the bread, so it does they kind of have like the plant-based protein in there.
Oh,
Is like
nice.
awesome. You know what I mean? Then I'm like, okay, that this works. So yeah, you can. I mean, I wouldn't
There's
put brownies
ways
in a
to get
salad.
there's ways to get creative. Yeah, no brownies out of salad, but yeah, like a
Yeah.
bread.
Yeah, but there's like a lot of, you just have to kind of take what you enjoy eating. I mean, sometimes people don't enjoy vegetables at all, and then that's about trying new things and
Right.
making them different ways. But yeah, so finding different ways to incorporate vegetables in there, I think is huge.
Absolutely. And, even if you don't enjoy eating them, like something that I've learned from some other guests that have been on the show, right? Like it takes a couple weeks to form good habits, to break bad habits. I actually, until about six, maybe a little bit longer, 6, 7 years ago, did not eat any vegetables ever. I tell
Yeah.
people this
Oh,
story and they're like my
in
parents didn't
shock.
force
Yeah.
me to eat vegetables and I hated them. And now it's part of every meal. And
Yeah, you
now,
probably
like,
have sound ways to eat it that you like, that you enjoy.
yeah. And, the first time I had broccoli, I didn't like it. But then I just kept having it. Like, you can train yourself to like other things. Well, this has been a lot of fun, like catching up with a friend,
No.
because obviously you are a friend.
Yeah, I know. It was awesome.
So, lastly, tell everyone where they can find you, order the brownies, learn more about you, connect with you, all that good stuff.
Yeah, so the brand is Eat Me Guilt Free. So it's at Eat Me Guilt Free on Instagram, on Facebook, Twitter, Pinterest. My name is Cristie Besu. So my personal Instagram might be easier if you need to ask me an entrepreneurial question is at Cristie Besu. Our website is eatmeguiltfree.com. And you can find us on Amazon, and you will start to see us all over the place next year. But you can go to Vitamin Shop, you can go to GNC, and a lot of your small independent grocers actually carry us. So
Awesome. So pick one up. I know you've got a variety of flavors and things that you can find.
yeah,
Awesome.
we have 8 different flavors. We're constantly coming out with new cool stuff. And we have a lot of innovation for next year too, aside from the bread and the tortilla. So it's going to be fun.
So just one more reason we all should look forward to 2021.
Exactly. For sure. That's what at least I'm telling myself. So
better times ahead. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Cristie.
thank you, Tamika.
Make sure you connect with Cristie. All of her information is below in the show notes. I loved her story because as many years as I've known her, I did not know all of those details, and just the leap of faith that she went out on and pursuing her passion is really inspiring, but also just knowing that, hey, all of us were not alone entrepreneurs when it comes to the ups and downs, the highs and lows of entrepreneurship. I love that she's paying it forward, supporting other women, because we should support each other. So make sure you stay tuned for information on that grant that she said is coming up in February. So connect with her, and all of that information is below. I want you to connect with me too. Find me on LinkedIn, Tamika Bickham. Hit subscribe on YouTube. I want to stay connected with you because I want to see you back again next week. And also, hey, leave me a review on Apple Podcasts. I want to make the show better for you each and every week. So until I see you back next week, stay happy, stay healthy.